There's something we don't talk about enough. Something that sits quietly in the corner of our consciousness, watching, waiting. It's the understanding that the person you were at 20 is not the same person reading these words now. And yet, somehow, they're both you. I've been thinking about this lately. About the way we carry ourselves through time like a collection of photographs in an old shoebox. Each image distinct, each moment frozen, yet all connected by an invisible thread we call identity. But what is identity, really, when you've lived long enough to become a stranger to your younger self? We spend our early years believing we're discovering who we are, as if identity were some fixed thing waiting to be unearthed. A treasure buried in the garden of our potential, just waiting for the right moment, the right circumstance, the right person to help us dig it up. But that's not how it works, is it? That's not how any of this works. The truth is more complex, more beautiful, and perhaps more unsettling than we're prepared to admit. The truth is that you've been many people in this one life. You've worn many faces, carried many hearts, dreamed many dreams. Some of them you remember fondly. Others you'd rather forget. But they're all you, aren't they? Every version, every iteration, every season of becoming. Think about it for a moment. Really think about it. The person who first fell in love, do you remember them? Not the details of the romance, but the actual person you were in that moment. The way your heart felt too big for your chest. The way the world seemed to shimmer with possibility. The way you believed, truly believed, that love could conquer everything. That person still lives somewhere inside you, doesn't they? Even if the love didn't last. Even if the world proved more complicated than you thought. Even if your heart learned to be more careful, more guarded, more wise. That wide-eyed believer in forever, they're still there, whispering sometimes when you least expect it. And what about the person who first held their child? That moment when everything you thought you knew about love expanded beyond recognition. When you understood, in a way that can't be taught or explained, that you would do anything, sacrifice everything, for this small being who had just entered the world. That person who was overwhelmed by the weight of responsibility and the lightness of joy all at once. They're still there too. Even now, when your children have children of their own, when they call less frequently, when they navigate their own lives with the same stumbling grace you once possessed. That fierce protector, that tender guardian, they haven't disappeared. They've simply learned to love differently, to worry from a distance, to offer support without suffocation. Life is like a house with many rooms, each one holding a different version of who you've been. Some rooms you visit often, comfortable in their familiar furnishings. Others have been locked away for years, their doors dusty and stiff from neglect. But they're all part of the same structure, all connected by hallways and memories, all sheltered under the same roof of your singular existence. There's the room where your younger self lives, ambitious, certain, maybe a little naive. The walls are painted with dreams that seemed so achievable then, so clear in their outline. Career goals written in bold letters. Life plans sketched with the confidence of someone who believes they can control the future. This person thought they had it all figured out, didn't they? They had timelines and expectations, benchmarks and definitions of success. That room still smells like possibility. Sometimes you visit it and smile at your former certainty. Sometimes you visit it and feel a pang of loss for dreams that took different shapes than expected. But that person, that dreamer, that believer in clear paths and predictable outcomes, they were you. They were absolutely, completely, undeniably you. Down the hall is another room, occupied by the person you became when life first showed you its teeth. When you learn that plans are just suggestions the universe considers before writing its own story. This version of you was baptized by disappointment, educated by setbacks, refined by the understanding that strength isn't about avoiding storms but learning to dance in the rain. This person carries scars like wisdom, wears resilience like a comfortable sweater. They know things the younger version couldn't imagine needing to know. How to grieve without losing hope. How to begin again without erasing what came before. How to find meaning in the detours that initially felt like failures. This person, this weathered, wiser version of you, they earned their place in the house through survival and growth. Then there's the room occupied by the person you became when love deepened beyond romance. When you discovered that caring for someone means watching them struggle and not being able to fix everything. When you learn that sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go, stepping back, allowing others to write their own stories even when you desperately want to edit the chapters that might hurt them. This version of you knows the weight of loving imperfectly, of doing your best and wondering if it was enough. They understand that relationships are living things that change and evolve, that require tending and attention and sometimes radical acceptance. This person has felt the ache of loving someone who's pulling away, the confusion of watching relationships transform into something unrecognizable, the grief of letting go without anger. They live in a room with windows that look both backward and forward, understanding that love is not a destination but a practice, not a feeling but a choice made again and again, even when it's difficult, even when it's complicated, even when it doesn't look the way you thought it would. There are other rooms too. The room where your parenting self lives, forever learning, forever questioning, forever hoping they're doing right by the small souls entrusted to their care. The room where your working self resides, with all their accomplishments and compromises, their contributions and their doubts about whether any of it mattered in ways that truly count. The room where your grieving self sits quietly, holding space for all the losses that have shaped you. Not just the deaths, but the endings. The friendships that faded. The versions of yourself you had to leave behind. The dreams that had to be released to make room for the reality that actually unfolded. And perhaps most tenderly, there's the room where your aging self is beginning to make themselves known. This person who's starting to notice that their body doesn't respond the way it used to, that their energy has different rhythms, that their priorities have shifted in ways they couldn't have predicted. This emerging version of you is learning to navigate a world that often feels designed for younger bodies and minds, finding ways to remain vital and engaged while honoring the natural changes that come with time. But here's what I've been thinking about most lately, the thing that keeps me awake some nights with its gentle persistence. All of these people, all of these versions of you, they're not gone. They haven't been replaced or discarded or outgrown. They're all still there, still part of the magnificent complexity that is your singular, irreplaceable existence. You are the young dreamer and the seasoned realist. You are the passionate lover and the careful friend. You are the fierce protector and the gentle releaser. You are the ambitious achiever and the peaceful acceptor. You are the hopeful beginner and the wise continuer. Sometimes they conflict, these different versions of yourself. Sometimes the young dreamer argues with the practical realist. Sometimes the fierce protector struggles against the gentle releaser. Sometimes the ambitious achiever feels frustrated with the peaceful acceptor. This is not a problem to be solved. This is not evidence of failure or inconsistency. This is the beautiful complexity of a life fully lived. We live in a culture that demands consistency, that wants us to have a brand, an identity, a clear and unchanging sense of self. But that's not how humans work. That's not how any of this works. We are not brands. We are not simple. We are not consistent. We are vast and contradictory and ever-changing, and that's exactly as it should be. You contain multitudes, as someone once wrote. You are large, you contain multitudes. Every person you've ever been lives on inside you, contributing their wisdom, their perspective, their hard-won understanding to the person you are today. They are not your past selves, they are aspects of your eternal self, facets of the jewel that is your existence. When you were young, people asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up. As if you would become one thing, settle into one identity, play one role for the rest of your life. But you know better now, don't you? You know that growing up isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more yourself, all the selves you've ever been and ever will be. The child who believed in magic is still there when you watch a sunset that takes your breath away. The teenager who felt everything so intensely is still there when music moves you to tears. The young adult who thought they could change the world is still there when you find small ways to make a difference. They haven't left. They've integrated. This is what wisdom looks like, isn't it? Not the replacement of naivety with cynicism, but the integration of innocence with experience. Not the abandonment of dreams, but their evolution into something more nuanced, more achievable, more real. Not the loss of passion, but its channeling into forms that honor both heart and mind. I think about the people who've known you at different stages of your life. Your childhood friends who remember the person you were before the world taught you to be careful. Your college friends who knew you when everything felt possible. Your early career colleagues who witnessed your ambition and drive. Your parenting friends who shared the chaos and joy of raising children. Your later friends who appreciate the person you've become after all the becoming. Each group knows a different version of you, doesn't they? And each version is true. Each version is authentic. Each version is you, even when they seem to contradict each other. The quiet child and the confident adult. The rebel and the conformist. The risk-taker and the security seeker. All you. All real. All part of the magnificent story that is your life. Sometimes I wonder if this is why reunions can feel so strange. Not just because everyone has aged, but because we're meeting as the people we've become while carrying the memories of the people we were. There's a moment of recognition, followed by a moment of surprise. You're still you, but you're also someone new. Of course. Of course you are. How could you not be? The person you were at your first job, nervous and eager and trying so hard to prove yourself, they're still there in moments when you feel uncertain, when you're facing something new, when you need to summon that beginner's mind. The person you were during your most confident period, when everything was working and you felt invincible, they're still there when you need to access your power, your capability, your strength. The person you were during your darkest period, when loss or disappointment or failure brought you to your knees, they're still there too, and their presence is not a weakness. They carry the knowledge of your resilience. They hold the proof that you can survive things you never thought you could survive. They are the evidence of your capacity to endure, to heal, to begin again. Every scar tells a story of survival. Every gray hair carries the wisdom of years lived. Every line around your eyes holds the memory of laughter, of worry, of concentration, of joy. You are a living library of experiences, a walking museum of moments, a breathing anthology of all the ways one person can exist in the world. And this is why, perhaps, the relationships that matter most are the ones with people who can see and appreciate your complexity. People who don't need you to be consistent or simple or easily categorized. People who can love the dreamer in you without being frustrated by the realist. People who can appreciate your strength without being threatened by your vulnerability. People who understand that you are not just one person, and that this is what makes you beautiful. There comes a moment, maybe it's happening right now, when you realize that all of this complexity, all of these different versions of yourself, they're not leading somewhere else. You're not becoming someone different. You're not working towards some final, perfected version of yourself that will emerge when you finally get it all figured out. This is it. This is who you are. Not becoming, but being. Not approaching, but arriving. Not preparing for your life, but living it. Right now. Today. In this moment. With all your contradictions and complexities, with all your different selves sharing space in the house of your existence. And perhaps this is the most radical acceptance of all, that you don't need to be simplified or streamlined or made consistent. That you don't need to choose one version of yourself to be. That you can be the serious person and the playful person, the careful person and the spontaneous person, the social person and the solitary person. You can be all of them because you are all of them. The young you who made mistakes doesn't need to be forgiven or forgotten. They need to be integrated. Their mistakes were learning. Their naivety was openness. Their certainty was courage. They did their best with what they knew at the time, and their best was enough to get you here, to this moment, to this understanding. The middle-aged you struggled with responsibilities and expectations, and the weight of others' needs doesn't need to be judged or dismissed. They carried the load when it was heavy. They made sacrifices when sacrifice was needed. They kept going when keeping going was the hardest thing to do. Their strength got you through, and their struggles taught you compassion. The aging you who is beginning to slow down, to notice changes, to face limitations doesn't need to be mourned or resisted. They are not the end of your story but another chapter in it. They carry the wisdom of all the previous selves. They offer a different kind of strength, a different kind of beauty, a different kind of contribution to the world. You are not losing yourself as you age. You are not becoming less. You are becoming more integrated, more aware of all the selves you contain, more appreciative of the journey that brought you here. You are not declining. You are deepening. Every person you have ever been contributes to who you are today. The shy child contributes caution and sensitivity. The confident teenager contributes boldness and possibility. The struggling young adult contributes resilience and determination. The busy middle years contribute competence and endurance. The reflective later years contribute wisdom and perspective. None of them were practice versions. None of them were wrong. None of them were wasted time. They were all necessary stops on the journey to becoming fully yourself, not despite your changes but because of them, not in spite of your contradictions but through them. So tonight, when you're alone with your thoughts, maybe take a moment to acknowledge all the people you've been. Thank the young dreamer for their optimism. Thank the struggling survivor for their strength. Thank the busy achiever for their dedication. Thank the careful parent for their love. Thank the aging sage for their acceptance. They are all still there, all still part of you, all still contributing to the magnificent complexity that is your existence. You never were just one person. You never could have been. The universe is too vast, life is too rich, experience is too varied for any one identity to contain it all. You are a universe in human form. You are a library of experiences. You are a gallery of moments. You are a symphony of selves, each note necessary, each movement contributing to the whole. You are exactly as complex as you need to be, exactly as varied as you should be, exactly as multifaceted as life has made you. This is not something to apologize for or explain away or try to simplify. This is something to celebrate. This is your gift to the world, not your consistency, but your complexity. Not your simplicity, but your depth. Not your singularity, but your multiplicity. You never were just one person, and that's the most beautiful truth of all. Maybe you've felt it too, this sense of carrying many selves, of being more than any single story could contain. Maybe you've wondered if others see the complexity in you, if they understand that you're not just the role they know you in but something much richer, much deeper. If these words found their way to a place in your heart that recognizes this truth, I'd love to know. Not because I need validation, but because there's something powerful about recognizing ourselves in each other's stories, about knowing we're not alone in our beautiful complexity. What version of yourself are you getting to know these days? What room in your house of selves are you visiting most often? Until we meet again in the space where stories recognize each other across time and distance,